Hey, welcome back to our podcast, Project Brightside, where we always look on the bright side, even when things are looking pretty dark.
I'm Dr. Shelby.
And I'm Richard Brito, and we are your hosts for today's episode.
Topics of discussion for our podcast include society and culture, education, and TV and film.
Each episode of Season 2 will have an interview of a guest speaker, followed by a Bright Talk segment where we discuss a complicated topic in hopes of shining light on it. For today's episode, we'll be interviewing Elisabeth Marie, graduate student at FSU College of Education. So, welcome to our show. It's been a long time coming, but you're finally here. I'm super grateful to have you on. How are you doing today?
Oh my gosh, hey, I'm so excited to be here. This is so exciting. I'm doing really well today. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This is so
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Awesome, awesome. I love the energy. Thank you so much. So, to start us off, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your interests professionally.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Elisabeth Marie. I am 24 years old and a master's student at Florida State University. To be honest, I am still trying to figure out some of my career and like professional goals and things like that. I'm currently in the higher education field, but I'm looking to take a little bit of a step back from that and kind of go more towards the teaching K through 12 atmosphere right now. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of what that looks like, but that's a little bit about me.
That's totally fine with like going into something in the moment, loving it, and then taking the skills that you learned from that place and then just pivoting. Like pivoting and going into another field, like the education and information that you learned, you're still taking with you. You're going to carry that with you forever. So it's not a waste, it's lessons learned, and those lessons learned made you you. And then now you could take that, and there's so many opportunities ahead of you. So you could literally pivot into anything you want. And that's the beauty of life. Like, you don't have to keep yourself in this box. You're able to just one day decide, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm going to pivot to something else that makes me happier. And I'm going to take what I've learned and I'm going to apply it in that other field. And sometimes, like, I think there was a really good, important lawyer that said in a press conference that oftentimes, like, the most challenging, difficult things that require, discovering like a solution for are found from a separate field. Someone else working on their own field found someone else's field problem solution. So it just depends. But I'm glad that you're able to share this with people that, you are getting your Master of Education, but you're actually pivoting into something else. So what is that something else that comes to mind? What do you see for yourself?
Yeah, I think that to me it's really important that people who are young and entering their college field understand that like it's completely okay to like pick something that you want to do and then pivot like 1,000 times because life is so dynamic and it's also way too short to spend doing something that you don't love doing. For me, like I really loved the higher ed field when I first started. I thought it was amazing. I got into the field to help students. Higher education is a lot of like student affairs and college administration, and how do you grow students in a holistic manner? And I still really love the work that I do in this field, even though I'm leaving it. Like I absolutely love the work that I do. I just don't love the job.
Hmm.
And that I think that that's totally okay to realize you don't like something, even if you're in the middle of a master's degree.
Yeah.
It can be really scary to want to pivot that, but it happens and it's okay and life keeps moving. And yeah, for me, I still want to work with students, but I think I'm, as I said, pivoting towards that K through 12 education rather than college students.
Yeah.
Um, I have an undergraduate degree in creative writing, and I love writing, and I'm sure I'll get to talk more about that later. But writing is just one of the most powerful, important things that you'll ever learn how to do, and you'll use it in every single field you go into.
I love that.
And I'd
Yeah.
love to have some time, like, to teach students who are in that high school age where they're consuming and they're learning so much that like hey, writing is important and like how do you cultivate that in someone? That's what I'd like to do.
That's awesome. You remind me of my high school teacher, Miss Kelly. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, she taught psychology and she's honestly a role model. She's super sweet and awesome. And, inspired me into psychology, and that's why I pursued psychology. I've been meaning I'm gonna pitch to her soon. There's the like 10-year anniversary coming up, I think, for graduation since I graduated high school in 2016. I don't know if they do that, but I think they do. But she said a lot of the things that you're saying, and it's really nice to like I'm growing up and I think I'm close to the age that she was when she was teaching me. I'm not sure. But the point is that you're saying like really wise things and it's just so full circle that like she said the exact same thing where um she just loves like teaching like psychology to high school students because it's such a pivotal like era for to transform people. And she had a big impact on me, she really did. And that's why I was so like committed to the psychology field. And then I did clinical social work. And then from there, I was like, oh, do I want to be a therapist? But no, I decided no, I don't want to be a therapist. But I just love the field so much, and I love learning, and that came from like sort of like mimicking the discipline that I witnessed in her. And you saying that reminded me of her, so I just wanted to share that.
Oh, thank you. That that really means a lot. I think that even though I'm excited to switch career fields, there's always that doubt and like, oh, is this gonna actually work? So that really means a lot to me.
Aw, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, definitely go for it. You're super talented, and anywhere you go, you'll succeed. So don't have any fear or worries stop you from pursuing your dreams because definitely you're definitely capable of anything you like choose out to pursue.
What kind of day to day obstacles have you faced and how have you overcome them?
When I think about the day to day obstacles that I face, a lot of them come from having depression. I've always been fairly transparent about the fact that I do have depression. It's something that I live with every single day. And with depression, things like motivation, getting things started, and also just like finding joy or even just happiness in the little things can be difficult and something that I do struggle with on a day to day basis. Some of the things that I do to overcome them are it's this silly thing that I do, but I've been doing it for years and it works, is that if I am having a hard time starting things, sometimes it's just because I'm stuck. Sometimes I feel like I'm just frozen. So I kind of will play music and I have trained my brain to know that if I start a song, like, okay, now I have to get up and go do things. In terms of just finding the joy in little things, I do this thing called Three Good Things, and every single day at 9 p.m., I write down three good things that have happened to me that day. And you'd be surprised. It's kind of hard to start with, or it's kind of hard to start, but then after you keep doing it, you start to look for them throughout the day. And it kind of is a mindset change of like, okay, there are three good things that happened today, and maybe they're tiny. Maybe it is that flower looked really pretty, or, it was cold in my apartment when it's normally not. But yeah, so, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think depression does become a major obstacle for so many people. And so I'm so inspired by how open you are with it. And I think hearing these techniques and kind of tricks that you've used to help continue with all the stuff you need to do despite kind of what's going on with your mental health, I think is so awesome and will be so helpful for a lot of people that are listening to this podcast. And that's certainly, not a struggle that you're alone in. So thank you for sharing that. So in talking about, some of these obstacles that you've overcome, what's been the main driving force that's helped you to get through this? What drives you?
There are so many different things that drive me, I think. The biggest one being my religion. In the past 4 or 5 years, that's been something that's really important to me. It's been something that helps me put one foot in front of the other on days when it feels like it's impossible to put one foot in front of the other. It constantly is driving me to be a quote unquote better person, to love people well as I'm called to, and to live life through that lens. I think the other things that drive me are the people around me, my friends, my family, my partner, all of these people who are constantly supporting me and loving me and are there to help me when I fall and support me through hard times. So yeah, things like that.
I want to ask you, what are a few of your biggest priorities for 2025?
I think when I think of like my biggest priorities, there's the obvious ones, which is, I want to graduate. I graduate in May, and that's something that I've been working towards for 2 years. And also what feels like the rest, like all of my life is working towards like graduating with my master's degree. So to state the obvious, graduating, but other things like that, I am really excited to start as like an what feels like an actual adult in the workforce. That's
Hmm.
not something I've ever done since I've gone like straight through my master's degree from like high school. I've never had a full-time job in the workforce.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm really looking to like just grow in all aspects of my life in things like personal growth, mental health, my faith, growing in my friendships and my social circles, like really leaning into those relationships and friendships that are super important to me.
That's awesome. Awesome answers. I love how in the pyramid of self-actualization, you have definitely gone high up. You have some strong bonds. You have really good stability for yourself. The fact that you're pivoting, but you're still finishing the master's, you know how necessary it is to complete that chapter and then go into what really fuels your heart. And having found that and committing to that and that excitement, it's gonna be a beautiful chapter. I already see it. It's like you have found your calling, and I love that. It's the
Thank
start of many chapters though, because you're
you.
about to like have this newfound freedom. You're about to be like a full adult, and that's what you're feeling right now. Like you're not fully developed because you have a whole life ahead of you, but you're a full adult. You're about to graduate. There's like 2 months left. And it takes people usually on average like 6 months, like after graduating or to get a job, like the dream job. So if you get it like literally as soon as you graduate, you're already ahead of a bunch of people. And I'm not saying that, you have to be competitive like that and like, put that pressure on yourself, but if it just naturally happens, then good for you.
So, we heard a little bit about your big priorities for the next year. What do you feel like you hope to accomplish within the next 5 years?
Something that I would love to accomplish in the next 5 years is to own a house. And I know that's kind of a lofty pursuit because in this economy that sounds really crazy, but I would love to own a house. I'd love to start a family, whatever that looks like. That's kind of like my next 5 year plan. And I know there are a lot of steps and things that I can't control surrounding that, but ideally I would love that. On a more like smaller scale, I would like to have a stable job. As someone who has never really had a stable job because I've been a college student, my entire life up to this point, I'd love to have a stable job, like a 9 to 5 that I go to and that I love and that I pour myself into and feel like accomplished about it. Yeah.
What advice would you offer to those who want to pursue a career like yours? So, kind of taking it day by day. Like, what advice would you offer people like that?
I think I'll answer this question in two parts. If you want to go into the higher ed field, I totally think you should do it. My advice is to prepare yourself to not have a sleep schedule. You're just not going to sleep at normal hours if you go into the higher ed field because we don't work normal hours. I have not in the last 4 years that I've been in higher ed had a single like work week where I wasn't working until like 10 p.m. one of those days. So yeah, I think being prepared like for something like that, as well as having a good support system and a good grasp on like what you can and can't handle and where your boundaries are is really important in like the higher ed field. But my advice to people who are maybe in that career point where they're leaving what they know, they're leaving the known world essentially to step into like into a world that they totally are not used to. I think the advice that I would have for those people who are considering that is to just to breathe. It's okay. It's going to feel really stressful. I think that we as a society have this fear of the unknown where it's really scary to step outside of your comfort zone. And so my advice is just breathe, take a
Hmm.
deep breath, and know that this too shall pass. And just keep putting one foot in front of the other. You will eventually end up where you're going. Even if you're in like the darkest part of that tunnel, you just have to trust that like you are a competent human being who has life experience and who can trust themselves to know that they are strong. You are strong enough to get through it.
Bro, I love you. I was gonna say something along the lines of the tunnel because I've been rewatching Avatar. And Iroh said sometimes, if you're going through a tunnel and you cannot see the light, you just have to keep going until the end you do. I didn't say it right, but he said something along those lines. And Avatar is just so coded with so many wise, like spiritual in the good sense where someone's enlightened and they choose peace, they choose tranquility, and you see the lessons learned in the show, and you're just really wise. You really have a learned education itself. You're having to learn how to not only educate like a bunch of other smart people, but you also have to understand the system. And in that system, you have to be able to apply and intervene educationally. And that's a whole other ballgame. And, you have to learn systems. And correct me if I'm wrong, you could talk about it more. You're about to finish your master's in, education. So, that's from my perspective of why, you're saying that like, oh, we don't have consistent schedules. It just depends. Like if something took longer than expect, can you elaborate just to like clarify my point?
Yeah. I think I really like what you said about learning how to take care of other people. In the higher ed field, that's all that you do is help other people. And there's a moment where you have to realize that in order to help other people, you also have to be taking care of yourself. I think that a lot of people in my life like to tell me that you can't pour from an empty cup. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really real, especially in a field that is extremely geared towards helping people in crisis. Learning how to take care of yourself and put your needs maybe not first all the time because sometimes that's just not possible in a field like this, but learning how to step back and be like, okay, this is my work life boundary. And yes, it's kind of hard to set one when I'm on call 24/7 for 7 days,
Hmm.
but I do have to take care of myself in these moments because I'm not going to be effective at my job and I'm not going to be able to effectively help people if I am not doing my best either.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot because for my doctorate in public health, I finish next year, May, hopefully, and then I move out by August. And I'm trying to find out where I'm going to move, but I think it's going to be South Florida. But
Okay.
with the field that I'm in, my focus is behavioral sciences and health education. So I'm not too deep in the education portion, even though that's my specialty. It's more so surrounding like using the components of behavioral sciences plus health education combined to then make interventions. And with you, if we compare the fields, like we have a lot of similarities. And my field, public health, takes a lot of the education aspects of your field and applies it. And that's what the interventions are. And there's a lot of, for instance, if you wanted to do public health, you would excel. You would excel so well because you already know so many foundational things. And I'm not saying like you have to do this just because you would excel. No, follow your heart and all that stuff. But there's a lot of intersections between fields. And the fact that you got a master's of education, like that is so transformative and you could go into any field. Like have that confidence because you've earned it. Like great work. Um
Thank you so much.
yeah, yeah, and the fact that you write well as well. Sorry, don't mean to overhype you out. Overhype
Oh my
you.
gosh, literally keep going. I'm kidding.
And to kind of wrap up this part of our talk, what's one book, TV show, or podcast outside of ours that you think everyone should experience?
I feel like the reader in me wants to say book, but honestly, I read some interesting things. So maybe not everybody needs to experience those. I'm currently reading The Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson, and while I would love to recommend that book because Brandon Sanderson is actually one of the best authors I've ever read, the books are also 1,000 pages long, and I don't want to subject everybody in the entire universe to that. So I think I'll pick a TV show. The TV show that I think everybody should experience is Merlin. It's like the BBC show, and it ended horribly, but honestly, it's one of my favorite shows. I've seen it like 4 or 5 times, and I just love it. I think it's so creative and fun, and also they have British accents. Who doesn't want to listen to a British accent?
So, for our next segment, Bright Talk, where we discuss complicated topics in hopes of shining light on the matter, this week we will be discussing the intersection of music and mental health education. So, with this in mind, let's start off with some questions for this Bright Talk topic. So, what can you do with your Master's of Education that you are soon to achieve by May 2025? So, I know we've talked about many opportunities that you could pursue, but aside from what you've already talked about, what are the things pop up into your mind that you might want to pursue in your life? Because you have a whole life ahead of you, and you've conquered so much early on in your 20s. So what's ahead?
I think one of the biggest things my master's of education has, and specifically in higher education, has taught me is how to be a listener and how to just like be there for people. And I think that that's a transferable skill for me across any field that I go into, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's staying in higher ed or going into the K-12 sector or literally anything. It's how can you listen to people and how can you love them well? I think that I'm not necessarily sure of all of the goals and plans that I want to achieve, but I know that there are so many things in my career field that I'm learning now that I will be able to use in anything that I go into.
Definitely. I agree wholeheartedly. Perfectly said.
What really draws you to songwriting and music?
The fact that I often use it as a diary. To be honest with you, most of the songs, if not all of them, I've written about because there are things that I go through. I'm what people like to call a hopeless romantic. I've been in love with love since I was really little, and yeah, a lot of the songs that I write, especially some of the more recent ones, have actually been about the same person, which has been really funny. I think it's really fun to watch my relationship with this one person specifically grow throughout time as I go back and listen to some of the songs that I've written. I don't know, it's kind of fun. And what draws me to music? I don't know. I think that it's just fun to listen to be honest. I kind of like music in a two-pronged approach, which is sometimes I really just enjoy listening to it because it sounds nice. And then sometimes I listen to it because it puts into words the emotions that I have but can't express.
What are possible ways you see music and mental health education intersect?
I think that the most popular way that I see music and mental health education intersect is that music makes people feel less alone. It's this I read this quote recently that it's like some when you listen to music and you find that line that you relate to, it's so affirming to your experience because it tells you, hey, I'm not the only person that's going through this. And I think that when you go through things like that are tough and that are really difficult, it is very, very easy to feel like you're alone, to feel like you're the only person that's going through this. And that is by no means a self-centered thing. It just when you're in the darkness, it does feel like you're alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that music is a great way to teach people that the artists that you love, the artists that you listen to all the time, are also people that go through this. And there's a lot of comfort that you can find in that.
Music connects people in many ways, and you might not speak the language of the artist that you're listening, but the music just resonates with you. The vocalizations of the instrumental vocalizations like just resonate with you, and that's the power of music. Music could connect with you. And also when you add a component of lyrical connection with story arc, and combining all of that, there's also sound vibrations and frequencies that could, have an impact on emotions. When you're stuck replaying the rumination and you have like whatever's going on in your life, those pressures, you're going to be in that stressed out environment, like, or stressed out mindset. And the mindset that you have in your head will outwardly express itself. And with music, people are able to bring out what's inside of them and share it with the world, and other people could also experience that. So in a way, with people's mental health, how their energy and what they're feeling, that could rub off on people. So if you surround yourself around negative people and all they do is have negativity, that negativity could resonate with you, and that could leech itself on you. So that's the power of music and the power of mental health. So if you listen to a lot of uplifting, empowering music, you're going to have more positive self-talk. You're going to have more positive emotions. So it's just the headspace that you put yourself in. And with education, it's also reminding people like, hey, how to take care of yourself, how to apply this, how to teach other people to learn that material and teach other people that material as well. So it's like how to teach people how to teach.
What would you like to see more of to better emphasize the intersection of music and mental health education?
The biggest thing that I think can be an intersection of mental health education and music is the artists that create it and having them have strong platforms that advocate for self-care and mental health and all of those things that help create like a healthy mind, body, soul type of experience. When people in the industry talk about mental health, it can help the people who listen to them actually learn how to advocate for themselves and things like that. So that's something I would really love to see.
So thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure being able to have you on our show. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I really, really did enjoy it. I enjoy all the conversations we have on all of our episodes, but this one was dear to my heart because I am really into songwriting. I'm really into mental health education. That is it for episode 7 of season 2 of Project Brightside. Thanks for tuning in and supporting us. Make sure to recommend our podcast to your friends and family. Also, make sure to keep sharing. We have a lot more in the works for the rest of season 2. Until next time, take care.
Episode 7 of season 2 of Project Brightside was executive produced by Richard Brito, Luke Riosti, Shelby Flohr, John Scrivenich, Jake Riosti, Sophia Paez, Andres Gil Arana, and Zoe Rushetsky. Music by Jake Riosti. Edited by Luke Riosti and Richard Brito. Research by our research associate, Margaret Lee. And a special thanks to Elisabeth Marie.